God's blessings are on the road He's called us to take. And if we don't pursue His path, then it's not that He's doling out suffering to us because we didn't choose His path, but it's more so that we're getting what the path we chose has to offer. And we're missing what God had for us. Ooh, we're approaching the end of the year. I wonder if I'm going to come up with any New Year's resolutions for myself this year, or have any goals for myself this year. So upon reflection, I thought, well, I've done that in the past, but it hasn't really worked out that great for me. So there was one year where I decided that I wanted to learn to knit. And for those of you who know me, I did not just make that up for this sermon. I really thought I was going to learn to knit. And so I bought knitting needles, and I borrowed a beginning knitting book from one of my friends, and that's about where it ended. I didn't make it much further than that. So then there was one year where I decided, hey, you know what? I think this year I'm only going to buy things for myself if they are a necessity. If it's not a necessity, I won't buy it for myself. So I made it about 6 months pretty well. And then eventually, I think Brian, my husband, kind of gave up on helping me be accountable because he was like, girl, you can make as many excuses as you want and kind of make things as necessities as you want, but I don't quite think you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I'm just going to stop talking and let you do your thing. But along with taking time at the end of the year to plan ahead for the next year, I think it's equally important for us to look at the year behind us and reflect on how it went. Look at the successes, look at the failures, and then use those as stepping stones as we move forward, right? Yes, I'm in the corporate world in my 8-to-5 job. I know that sounds like it, but I think this can also be applied to our personal lives as well, right? Brian and I try to make a point sometimes at dinner time to go around the table and ask everybody one way that they failed that day, and then how they're going to learn from it. So I think it's a great idea to reflect. So we're all going to reflect on 2025 together. So in that spirit, I want you guys to think about your 2025 for just a moment. Okay? Now here's your rating scale. I've got a rating scale for you. So 1, it was fantastic. Couldn't have gone better. 2, it was pretty good overall. 3, it was fine, but I'm ready to move on to 2026. And 4, it was horrible. Peace out 2025 and don't come back. So just a second, I'm going to have you guys all raise your hand and show me your rating on your fingers, okay? So think about it, and on the count of 3, we're all going to give our rating. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got a lot of different numbers up there. I love it. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. Now, I want you to take a second and reflect on that number that you just put up. Was it because your job or school went well or didn't go well? Was it that you had a rough year in your marriage, a rough year of parenting? Was it that you had a tragedy happen? Have you struggled with your health? Or did you have a great year of travels, great year with friends and family? Maybe it was an awesome year. What was that leading factor that influenced that number that you held up just a moment ago? For me, it was my ability to keep myself from saying things that I shouldn't, my physical fitness, the quality time I got in with my family and friends, and then how I feel like I'm doing as a parent and a wife. So how many of you, and this can be rhetorical, based it on the time you spent with God this year? Or how many of you base that number on listening to God's voice or your obedience to Him throughout the year? Seeking His calling and obeying His callings for you, from small little things to big things, like life-altering things like Mary, the mother of Jesus. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that the other things that have happened, good or bad, right? Job promotions, getting let go, adding family members or losing them, sicknesses, great accomplishments, those things can all have a bearing on that number. But shouldn't we be so rooted in Jesus that that's just ancillary? If Jesus is truly our number one, shouldn't he have been that number one factor in our rating that I had you hold up just a moment ago? Well, as you heard from me, I'm not there yet, and I would venture a guess that maybe a lot of you aren't either. But here's the thing. We aren't alone. There's a lot of examples in the Bible of people who weren't there either. And in this past year, I've been doing a lot more reading in my Bible than I have previously, and so I've really been diving into the Old Testament. And there's a couple things that I've been kind of noticing as far as themes go. So the first one is there's a lot of killing, like a lot of death, a lot of it. But we're not going to touch on that one today. We're just going to let that one go. So the other major theme that I came across was, or I remember hearing over and over again, was this: X didn't happen because of the people's disobedience to the Lord. Instead of obeying God, the people sinned, and so they, or even the generations to come after them, were cursed. And one of the most prominent stories of the Old Testament is about the Israelites, who God frees from slavery in Egypt. And he's told them about this promised land, this land flowing with milk and honey that he has for them. And in their journey to this promised land, over and over and over again, they disobey God. They failed to trust God. And many who had left Egypt never even got to see this land that they were promised. And then consequently, never got to live out the fullness and the abundance of life that he had planned for them because of their actions or lack thereof. I think this disobedience really starts in Exodus 32. Moses, who is the leader of the Israelites at the time, he'd gone up to Mount Sinai to talk to God to get the 10 Commandments. I think we're all pretty familiar probably with that story, right? The Israelites grew impatient, and I think really at that point, they just lost their faith in this God that they couldn't see, right? So they built this golden calf, and they started worshiping and believing in this statue instead of believing in God. But I think the part that really rerouted their story was when the Israelites, throughout this journey to the promised land, after the Lord had performed several miracles to get them out of Egypt, by the way, and they had experienced the Lord providing for them daily, over and over again. And when they're about to enter this land that they had been promised, all they had to do was follow and listen and obey. Obey God's steps to get to the promised land. And they couldn't do it. After all these things that the Lord had done for them, they still did not have the faith to trust and obey. So let's actually take a look at this story from Moses' point of view. We're going to read through Deuteronomy 1:19 through 45. Then, as the Lord our God commanded us, we set out from Horeb and went into the hill country of the Amorites through all that vast and dreadful wilderness that you have seen. And so we reached Kadesh Barnea. Then I said to you, you have reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. See, the Lord your God has given you the land. Go up and take possession of it as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, told you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Then all of you came to me and said, let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us and bring back a report about the route we are to take and the towns we will come to. The idea sounded good to me, so I selected 12 of you, one man from each tribe. They left and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it. Taking with them some of the fruit of the land, they brought it down to us and reported, it is a good land that the Lord our God is giving us. But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You grumbled in your tents and you said, the Lord hates us. So he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us to the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made our hearts melt in fear. They say, the people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there. Then I said to you, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who is going before you, will fight for you as he did for you in Egypt, before your very eyes, and in the wilderness. There you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a father carries his son, all the way you went until you reached this place. In spite of this, you did not trust in the Lord your God, who went ahead of you on your journey in fire by night and in a cloud by day, to search out places for you to camp and to show you the way you should go. When the Lord heard what you said, he was angry and solemnly swore, no one from this evil generation shall see the good land I swore to give your ancestors, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh. He will see it, and I will give him and his descendants the land he set his feet on, because he followed the Lord wholeheartedly. Because of you, the Lord became angry with me and said, you shall not enter it either, but your assistant, Joshua, son of Nun, will enter it. Encourage him, because he will lead Israel to inherit it. And the little ones that you said would be taken captive, your children, who do not yet know good from bad, they will enter the land. I will give it to them, and they will take possession of it. But as for you, turn around and set out toward the desert along the route to the Red Sea. Then you replied, we have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight as the Lord our God commanded us. So every one of you put on his weapons, thinking it easy to go up into the hill country. But the Lord said to me, tell them, do not go up and fight, because I will not be with you. You will be defeated by your enemies. So I told you, but you would not listen. You rebelled against the Lord's command, and in your arrogance you marched up into the hill country. The Amorites who lived in those hills came out against you. They chased you like a swarm of bees and beat you down from Seir all the way to Hormah. You came back and wept before the Lord, but he paid no attention to your weeping and turned a deaf ear to you. So there's a few things that I want to call out and talk about from that story. And the first one is, one small doubt in God led to one big turn in history. God has this land ready for them. He tells them, go and take possession. Do not be afraid. And they let just a little bit of doubt creep in. And what happened? They decided not to do what God said. And instead, they sent spies to check out the land and the cities. And when doing so, it had given the people enough time to build up enough fear that then they came up with all these excuses they could think of, right? Instead of following what God had asked them to do. And then their only valid excuse was, there wasn't one. There was no valid excuse. They just had fear. The second thing I want to call out here is taking the safer path does not mean that it's God's path. Moses let the people talk him into sending the spies, probably because it felt like the safer and the easier choice at the time, right? Instead of taking that path that God had laid out for them. And as a result, not only were they not doing the works for God, they were not receiving any of the blessings that God had for them either, and he let them suffer the consequences of their choices. So that's the other thing I want to call out. They suffered the consequences of their own choices. I think it's so easy for us to get caught up in thinking that our path is better than God's path. But God's blessings are on the road he's called us to take. And if we don't pursue his path, then it's not that he's doling out suffering to us because we didn't choose his path, but it's more so that we're getting what the path we chose has to offer. And we're missing what God had for us.